Well, hello and welcome to Understand Men Now. I'm Jonathan Aslay of jonathanashley.com, and I'm so excited to be doing this live stream for you today. Our topic, the 5 huge lies men tell, and they're more common than you think. All right, really quickly before we get into this video, if you're brand new to my YouTube channel, please hit the subscribe button, hit the bell so you can be notified of new videos. And if any time during this video the content resonates with you, please hit that like button so I can be seen in the YouTube algorithm. Also, my coaching is what I call heart-centered radical honesty. It's direct, a little tough love, and a lot of heart. And occasionally I use expletives to enhance the sentence. So if a F-bomb or two isn't your cup of tea, I suggest logging off right now. Lastly, these are my thoughts, my opinions, my perceptions. By no means do I suggest this is the truth. You have to decide the truth for yourself. I'm here to shift your perspective because I'm a contrarian. And hopefully, if it does spark some curiosity from you, maybe you are experiencing a better relationship going forward. All right, let's jump into those 5 huge lies guys tell. All right, before we get into the lies guys tell, let's just be real. Have you ever heard the phrase, once a liar, always a liar? Well, pretty much that would make every human being on the planet a liar, because the reality is men and women alike do lie. Sometimes we call them white lies, sometimes they're significant lies, sometimes they're sociopathic lies, sometimes it's gaslighting, sometimes it's defensiveness. We can come up with all kinds of words. The reality is most human beings lie to spare someone's feelings. Let me repeat that. Most human beings lie to spare someone's feelings. And this is certainly true in the realm of dating, mating, and relating. And so whether this title is maybe a little inflammatory, suggesting that men are bad, that's not the case, because what I'm about to share today, quite frankly, women do the exact same things as well. So let's just own this and let's see what comes out of it through this process, because maybe we can start looking at things from a different vantage point. Let me repeat that. We can start looking at things from a different vantage point. And what I mean to say is, as a dating and relationship coach, I see a lot of divide between men and women. In fact, a lot of dating advice creates tension and divide between men and women. Instead of actually bringing people closer, it tears people apart, because there's this narrative that the masculine is supposed to do this and the feminine is supposed to do that. I know I'm going off on a rant here. We're like, what does this have to do with lying? I'm here. The reason why I bring this up is I want to encourage a more compassionate way of dating, mating, relating. I want to encourage people to approach the process from the perspective of what would love do and how would love respond, instead of the accusatory way oftentimes view the process. Because the reality is most human beings are do the best they can. In fact, I continually say most men are good guys. They're just bad daters. And I know all of you love the idea of the chivalrous man that's just going to come claim you. And while that is true some of the time, a very small percentage of the time, the reality is most humans want companionship, connection, and sex. And yet they're struggling on the inside from the most common area of they're emotionally stunted or have weak emotional skills, particularly in the areas of communicating their emotions. And this isn't just true for men. This is absolutely true for women as well. I can tell you, as a man out in the dating realm, I witness woman after woman after woman who has poor communication skills when it comes to expressing themselves. In fact, my entire clientele are women who struggle speaking their truth to a man. Let me repeat that. A significant percentage of my clientele struggles to speak their truth to a man. This is why, if you aren't familiar with my book, What the Heck is Self-Love Anyway? What the Heck is Self-Love Anyway? Chapter 1 is speak your truth, do it with kindness. And yet most humans struggle being vulnerable, authentic, and transparent, which the inverse of that is oftentimes the idea of being dishonest, is that they just don't know how to communicate in a healthy way. This is why I continually recommend the book Nonviolent Communication by Marshall Rosenberg. Nonviolent Communication by Marshall Rosenberg. By the way, check out the link below to Jonathan Recommends Books and my book as well. Okay. If human beings struggle communicating, then the way they handle it is they grasp for little lies, or in some cases big lies, because they don't know how to properly express themselves, or there's a fear of hurting someone's feelings. So right now we're going to go through some of the 5 most common lies that men share. And let me repeat this: women almost say the exact same things, just in a slightly different way. So we're going to put on my trusty glasses. We're going to pull out my notes, the 5 huge lies men tell women, and they're more common than you think. So the first one happens during a first date. The most common one happens during a first date, when a man says, I'll call you, okay? I'll call you, or let's get together again. Now, here's the thing. Now this isn't always the case that they're lying about that. The challenge is that when you've met someone that you're not that really interested in, it's a very awkward moment. It's a very awkward moment at the end of the evening, not to throw some sort of bone out there, because what if the other person does like you a little bit? You don't want to sit there and say on a first date, hey, look, you're a nice human being, but I don't want to see you again. That feels very uncomfortable. And ladies, when a man has even said, would you like to get together again? And you've said yes, and you didn't mean it, you're both lying. So I want to have a little compassion in the understanding that this is a very common thing that happens. And the only way you know it's legit that they're going to call you, is that they actually shoot you a text message later saying, hey, I had a great time. Do you want to get together next week? Or they actually get on the phone and call you. So it's kind of a toss-up whether or not they're telling the truth or not. The reality is most people, not always do this, but most people, men and women, will throw a bone. And in many cases, they are just, as I said, throwing a bone. They're not intentionally lying. It's a white lie because it's an uncomfortable thing to tell a person. I really don't want to see you again. Now, occasionally, let me just piggyback on this. Occasionally, some people right at the beginning of the first date say this isn't working for them. I've seen women do this on a first date. I've seen men do this on the first date. And while it can sting a little bit, I got to tell you, wouldn't it be great if people were wouldn't it be great if they were upfront in their online dating profiles to begin with? But that's a whole nother conversation. But wouldn't it be great to just say, look, right off the bat, I'm not feeling it? In fact, if people did that actually right from the get-go, they might find that they might actually begin to spend time with each other with less pressure, and actually find that they have more in common, that they actually like each other. So just a reminder, one of the most common lies that men tell, women do this too, is I'll call you again, or would you like to get together? Okay, number 2. Now, this doesn't happen that often, and yet I have heard this a number of times, so that's why I wanted to put this in today's category, is men will never share the number of women they've slept with, or if they've used porn, if you ask them directly. Let me repeat that. Men will rarely, I should say never, will rarely share the exact number of women they've slept with, or if they use porn, if you ask them directly. Look at, if a guy asked you how many men have you slept with, you would probably find that question a little bit offensive. And yet it does get asked both by men and women alike. And the reality is no one wants to fess up to the actual number. In fact, I did a survey in my YouTube community asking how many men they've slept with. And I was shocked to see how low the number was. And I'm not suggesting they weren't telling the truth. But I'm here to say men and women alike, try to avoid that question as much as possible, because if the number is rather high, the impression is going to be that there's something wrong with them, that they're a sex addict, that they're, or going back even to the use of porn, that they are addicted to porn. And that may not always be the case. And let me just share this. Whether it's a emotionally unhealthy man or even a high emotionally healthy man, human beings tell lies. So I've shared, if a woman asks me that question point blank, I'm not going to share the number. In fact, I will probably skew that number so low that it's like, you're the second woman I've ever slept with. And I'm just kidding on that one. But I'm here to say is men and women will lie alike in this from this particular question. And with regards to the porn, that's a very sensitive and personal question. I guess the follow-up question could be if men ask, well, do you ever fantasize about men when you masturbate? So these are very touchy subjects that oftentimes are predisposed for people to lie a little bit. Okay, number 3. This is actually one I've heard many a time from men. When you hear the phrase, let's take it slow and let's hold off on sex and just become friends first. Folks, men are predisposed to chase sex. We are just biologically predisposed that way. And even I'm in my mid-50s, I still have a high libido. Now, not all men in my age bracket have that. I'm grateful that because of exercise and some other things, I'm just grateful that I have that high libido for myself anyway. But my point is, most men, we want to jump your bones, whether even if we say the words, let's take it slow or not. What I'm concerned about and why this is an important thing to be aware of, and women oftentimes always will also use the let's take it slow phraseology, is that it might be a passive aggressive or covert way to convince you that he's safe. Now, this particular one is a little bit tricky and you should pay attention to it because it might be a covert reason to make you think he's a safe person to be with. I'm a little bit on the opposite end. I like to be just vulnerable, authentic, and transparent. And I even have said to women on a first date, boy, I'd like to jump your bones. Now, that might be a turn off. I oftentimes don't have a filter. If you follow my channel here, you recognized I don't really have much of a filter. Here's the thing, at least it's authentic. It might be TMI, but at least it's authentic. So when a guy says, let's take it slow, let's be friend first, I'm not in it for the sex, just be aware that that's oftentimes a covert way to make you feel safe and not necessarily legit. Although the older men get, men in midlife, they tend to be a little less driven by the biology and more driven by their heart. So they're more apt to invest more time in getting to know you. Just recognize though, if a man actually, I should have said this in the beginning. If a man overemphasizes, let's take it slow, let's just be friends, or let's not have sex right away. If they overemphasize it, that's oftentimes an indicator that it's a covert way of making you feel safe versus a legit. So if a guy just says, hey, let's just take it slow, that's actually probably not so, that is most likely okay if they overemphasize it. Okay. Number 4. So this is something men and women alike do, is they oftentimes lie about communicating with past lovers. I'll repeat that. They lie about communicating with past lovers. And because the reality is that most people know this is a sensitive subject, that you're communicating with someone that you were in a past relationship. So if you ask the question point blank, oftentimes people will fib, exaggerate, or downplay if they're actually communicating with a past lover. And women do this too. So as I said before, this isn't strictly for men. This is women do the same thing too. Because the reality is on some cases, you can have a healthy relationship with a past lover. I certainly have a healthy relationship with my ex-wife. I have a healthy relationship with my most significant relationship after my divorce. When I say healthy relationship, it's not like we're on the phone 24/7 talking to each other. We do occasionally catch up with one another, and I do that with my ex-spouse as well. But I'm talking about, now there's a difference between people who incessantly talk to past lovers, or their past lover is practically their therapist in their life. That oftentimes can be a problematic thing. So just remember, most human beings are going to fudge or lie a little bit about whether or not they speak to past lovers. And number 5, and men and women do this alike. I was literally talking to a group of women the other day at my jacuzzi, and I heard one woman just give an excuse to a guy about why she doesn't want to see him again. And men do the same thing too. So men oftentimes use the excuse of work, of being at work, as a reason not to see you, okay, that they're at work. Women oftentimes use their children or even work as their reason for not to see you. But this is basically code for, I'm just not that into you. When someone is overly busy in their life and they use work or their children or some other drama, if you will, it's oftentimes simply code for, I'm just not that into you. So is it a lie? Well, we can always rationalize our lies. Let me repeat that. We can rationalize our lies by saying, well, it's kind of true that I'm busy at work, but the reality is it's simply code for, I'm just not that into you. Men do this, women do this. This is a very common thing that men and women alike do when they're just not that into you. And they use excuses. So are they legit lies? Again, you have to make the decision for yourself. All right, so I just outlined 5 huge lies that men and women share to each other. So what's the benefit of knowing all this? The reality is that human beings, they're thirsty for companionship, connection, and sex, or companionship, connection, and intimacy, mostly in the form of physical intimacy, and they don't have really healthy skills within themselves to get there. This is why, ladies, if you meet a man who seems excited to want to be with you, the best time to establish where's this relationship going is while he's on the hunt for the sex. So I highly recommend purchasing 2 copies of the book, 8 Dates by Doctors John and Julie Gottman. 8 Dates by Doctors John and Julie Gottman. And the reason why is, if a man is interested in getting to know you, I suggest giving him a copy of this book and say, hey, let's read this book together to see if we're actually a good fit for one another before we go down the road of being in a relationship. Now, ladies, a guy who is only in it for the sex, he's gone. He won't read the book with you. If he's in it for the short run, he's gone. Now, if he's a needy guy, he will absolutely dive into it. And if he's an emotional grown-up, he's going to dive into it with you. So if a woman came to me and said, hey, let's read this book together to determine if we're a good fit with one another, I would jump on that if I really like somebody. Okay, so ladies, the best time to introduce this book, as I've always said, before the penis goes inside the vagina. Get this book, get 2 copies of this book, because you can actually determine the legitimacy of this guy early on. And while there are the exceptions to the rule, there are some men who are players that might read it with you. The reality is the way the book is set up, it's going to kick out the wrong guys really fast, and the right guys will start leaning in. So this is one of the reasons why I continually recommend books for you all to read. Y'all, am I from the South? Y'all to read, because it actually creates an opportunity for deeper intimacy with one another. If you're not familiar with the book Oral Sex, this is talking and listening your way to passionate intimacy. Intimacy, into me you see. This is how we establish a healthy, happy relationship with one another. We can actually be not physically intimate with each other, but emotionally intimate with each other. And this is why I continually encourage everyone to do some of this work ahead of time, so you can weed out the wrong guys really quickly and attract the right guys. And if you need some support with that, check out the link to a free discovery call with me to see if working with a coach is right for you. My area of expertise is teaching you the right questions to ask based on your personality. So check out that link to schedule that discovery call with me. All right, we're going to jump into the Q&A part of our live stream today. So if you're listening to the recording, you won't be able to see this. If you're on live right now, there's a chat box. You can post if you want to ask me a question, write the word question, then post the question thereafter. So put the word question, colon, and then ask your question with a question mark, so I know what you're asking. Or you can purchase a super sticker or super chat. Those who know that the funds for the super sticker, super chat goes to a scholarship fund that's in the name of my son, Connor Aslay. That's him right there. He's my son who passed away a few years ago, and in his honor, I've created a scholarship fund to defray the cost of personal development and to donate to personal development workshops. So I've given money to the Hoffman Process, to Insight Institute, just name a few. And a woman the other day qualified for a scholarship, and she got a discount on coaching with me. So purchase a super sticker, super chat. They're in the little box right there with the $sign. All right, let's jump into the questions. Actually, we had a question come in beforehand, so let me post this. Okay. Bear with me 1 second. Here we go. All right. Question. Jonathan, I heard another dating coach say men need space to chase you. Does that really work? Men need space to chase you. Does that really work? I love this question. And I was listening. I've heard this from many dating coaches, both men and women alike, talking about you need to create space within the dynamic of man to create a level of doubt on your part. Let me repeat that. To create a level of doubt on your part that you're actually interested in him, and that a man will chase you when there's that space, when there's that tension, when you're playing hard to get. In fact, the book, The Rules, if you've ever heard the book, The Rules, it's all based on the idea of playing hard to get as a technique to attract a man. Here's what I have to say to all that. Fucking bullshit. Bullshit. Playing games never, ever, 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 ever works in the long run. Folks, here's the problem with this notion of creating space to create tension so he chases you or pursues you. Okay, now here's a couple things you must know, so stick around here for a second. First off, avoidant personality men, people have what's known as avoidant love attachment. If you're not familiar with the book Attached by Amir Levine or Rachel Heller, I highly recommend checking this out. The book Attached, okay, talks about 3 attachment styles: anxious, avoidant, and secure. Let me repeat that: anxious, avoidant, secure. So if you have a man who has an avoidant personality type and you're playing hard to get, and it's the early stages of a relationship, here's what's going to happen. He will temporarily chase you to hook you, and then he'll go back to his default of being avoidant. What that means is it's almost akin to being emotionally unavailable. So while it might temporarily hook him, he's going to go back to his default unless you have to continually create space. Not after you, once you're in a relationship with him, you're going to have to continually create tension. Otherwise, he's gone. Okay. Now, here's the other thing. If it's an emotionally needy guy, he'll chase you. But let me tell you something. He's going to be so needy, you're not going to be attracted to that if he's chasing you. The problem with this particular type of advice, it requires you to constantly be playing a game to create a healthy, happy relationship with someone. And I am all against playing games. This is why I continually recommend the book, If the Buddha Dated. If the Buddha Dated. This is a great book to connect at a heart-centered spiritual way with a guy that has nothing to do with game playing. The game playing techniques. By the way, I've heard dating coaches say, go out with your girlfriends and go out of town. That will make him miss you. Folks, a guy could temporarily miss you and want to have you, but that doesn't necessarily mean he wants to be in a relationship with you full term. The healthier way to approach a relationship is not using the space technique or playing hard to get technique. I recommend something different, and that is the 4 A's: attention, affection, appreciation, and acceptance. Attention, affection, appreciation, acceptance. And if you need some help learning this, I highly, highly, highly recommend the book by Barbara DeAngelis called Making Love All the Time. These are tried and true, healthy ways to create a bond between men and women. And ladies, let me just tell you this. I know you love the idea that men are the leaders of the relationship and all you have to do is sit back in your feminine energy and he will just naturally claim you. Folks, let me tell you something. It's not about leaning back. It's about leaning into your sovereignty, your self-worth, your self-esteem, your self-confidence. Coming back to my book, What the Heck is Self-Love Anyway? Links below to all the books I recommend. Folks, I want to encourage you to lean into your empowered, sovereign self instead of having to use game playing techniques. Because, listen, it's good to miss someone a little bit. When you're intentionally creating tension so they miss you, that will temporarily work, but not for the long run. And I want you to have a healthy, happy, long-term relationship. So again, I invite you to look at this dynamic from the eyes of what would love do and how would love respond? And you know what love does and what love responds? It invites everybody to be vulnerable, authentic, and transparent. Let me repeat that: vulnerable, authentic, and transparent. That is how we're going to build healthier, happier relationships. And that's, again, why I continually recommend the book, 8 Dates by Dr. John and Julie Gottman. Because if you want to have a healthy, happy relationship, it's time to be an adult in relationship. And I'm going to wrap up this one segment with another book you should check out, How to Be an Adult in Relationship. All right, we covered a lot. So going back to the original question, should you use space to get a guy to really chase you? Hell no. No, no, no. All right, does that make sense? All right, hope it does. Thanks for that question. I really appreciate it. All right. I noticed some super stickers or super chats. So let's, Stacy just said, no question, just a donation to your son's fund. Thank you so much. I really appreciate that. That's very sweet of you, Stacy. Also, I want to thank Nunya Business. Thank you for the super sticker. Very sweet of you guys. Thank you so much. I really appreciate it. Leaf says, attention, affection, and appreciate. Attention, affection. Wait. Attention, affection, appreciation, and acceptance. Leaf, let's get that acceptance in there. All right, I saw a question earlier, so bear with me. Bump, bump, bump. Let's go swimming. Oh, we got lots of questions, unlike the other day. Oh, boy, I have to scroll up. Okay. Mindy writes, what does it mean when a man doesn't want to label your relationship and informs you that you're the only woman he is talking with you? He doesn't want to label it. You know what? I've heard this thing before. I can't stand this whole thing about men who say, I don't want to label the relationship. Look it, my telephone has a label. It's a Samsung. My book has a label called What the Heck? It's called a book. It's a label. You know, we have to identify, it's healthy to identify the dynamic with a label. So are we dating? Is it strictly dating? Are we in a relationship? Are we monogamous? Are we exclusive? Are we committed? Those are words, but they're also labels to help identify what it is we're doing in this relationship. So when a man says, I don't want to put a label, that's because he doesn't want to. Now, he might say, I'm going to be monogamous and exclusive with you. But what he's also trying to do is, look, I don't necessarily want to commit all of myself to you, believing that this is going to go somewhere. I'm going to repeat that. I don't want to commit all of myself to you, having you believe this is going to go somewhere. In other words, this dynamic has a destination. So they avoid talking about the really important stuff. And folks, I'm here to say, if your vagina is receiving a penis, okay, you have every right to ask deeper questions to determine if you're on the same page. I'm going to repeat that. If the penis gets allowed to go inside the vagina, you have every right to ask questions to determine if you're on the same page. If you're like me, I'm seeking a fully committed relationship where we spend 3 or 4 days and nights a week together, doing shared activities, hobbies, mutual interests, spending time with family and friends, traveling together, teamwork, building skills, both in our personal and our professional life, and intimacy, both physical and emotional intimacy that leads to either getting married or living together. That's the standard of what I'm looking for. Now, everybody is different. Some of you are happy with friends with benefits. Some of you happy with casual relationships. Some of you happy with situationships. Some of you are only capable of giving very little because you're raising children. You've got a busy life. So you may not be able to fit in the, for example, what I'm looking for. And that's okay. If two people are on different pages, like if someone only wants to see me once every other week and I said 3 or 4 days and nights a week together, we're a mismatch. That's not what I'm looking for. So I invite you to decide what you're looking for in a relationship and then ask the tougher questions to determine if you're on the same page. And the best time to do that is before the penis goes inside the vagina. Folks, I can't tell you how many women email me continually 3 months, 6 months into a relationship going, I don't know if we're in a committed relationship. Men are going to try to avoid that question. Let me reframe that. Men who are emotionally unhealthy, men who don't know what they want, will try to avoid that question. So why do you let his dick go inside of you if he's avoiding some level of commitment with you? I'm here to scream at the top of my lungs. And I know some people get angry that I scream, but it's like, you're about to touch fire. Stop, stop, stop. That's why I'm yelling. I want to encourage you to talk right up front as early as you can to decide if you're on the same page and you're traveling down a 2-lane street. Does that make sense? Tell me if that makes sense by giving me a thumbs up or saying amen. So I want to thank Mindy for that question. Great, great question. Thank you so much. Okay. Claudia says, how do you make it official without scaring him before going to bed? How do you make it official? Again, I just literally said that in the previous one. Purchase 2 copies of this book. Folks, it's not about making it official. It's about figuring out if you're on the same page. Why is this so hard for you women? Why do you give your power away to men? Why do you give your power away to men? Folks, if you're not familiar with my relationship iceberg, and I know most of you are, look at this. The tip of the iceberg says chemistry, and above the waterline, it says attraction. And below the waterline, there's shared values, blendable lifestyles, and emotional maturity. And that says compatibility. Folks, you continually expect men to lead the dating process, which basically means you're giving your power away to men. Are you not familiar with my 7 ways women give their power away to men? Number 1, the relationship is on his terms. Number 2, you're afraid to speak your truth with him. Number 3, when the relationship ends, it's all about him. 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 Look inward. It's about you. Number 4, you're waiting for him to always initiate contact. It's always about him initiating contact. Folks, it's a 2-lane street. Number 5, you stop doing your pre-relationship life before him. You're feeling like you can't live without him, and then you feel like he's the only one I can ever have chemistry with. By the way, the average man and woman today has had at least, on average, if you're in midlife, which is after baby making years before retirement. So if you're 42 to 69, that's the audience I speak to. The average person has had 5 relationships of 3 months or longer, and they've had at least 2 to 3 significant relationships. So look at, oh, well, I'm going to go off on another tangent. I'm going to leave it the way it is. Folks, ladies in particular, stop giving your power away to men. Be in charge of your relationship destiny. It is not a man's job to lead the dating process. It's a 2-lane street. It's a co-creative process. And if you're not familiar with the book Spiritual Partnership by Gary Zukav, I highly recommend ordering this book so you can learn how to be more in a co-creative space, along with the book, I mentioned this before, If the Buddha Dated, because this is going to generate better results for you than the old way of doing it. You mean the old way of Jonathon? What's the definition of insanity? Doing the same things over and over and over and over and over and over again and expecting different results, because ladies, magic fairy dust doesn't change a dysfunctional relationship. Only you can change your relationship destiny by being intentional, by loving on yourself, and asking right up front, are we on the same page? Are we on the same page? So start asking those questions early on. And again, check out the link to a free discovery call with me to see if working with the coach is right for you. All right. Thank you, Claudia, for that question. I really appreciate it. All right. I'm going to scroll to the bottom now. What do we got here? Wow, we got lots of conversation going. Bear with me. Let's go swimming. Let's go swimming. Let's go swimming. If you have a question, post the word question, then write the question after there, or purchase a super sticker, super chat. Catherine says amen. Vivian gives me a thumbs up. Jane says amen. Kitty Cat says amen. None of your business gives me a thumbs up. Thank you so much. All right. I see some questions here. Bear with me, everyone. Oh, Heather Cash has a question. Question: how can I get my guy to look into BPD so that he can understand why I get the way I do? And I do. And I ended up causing us to break up, and he won't believe me about the circumstances. So, Heather, this is a great question. Now, I actually interestingly did a Google search, and I found out it's borderline personality disorder. Women suffer from borderline personality disorder far more than men. Let me repeat that. Women suffer from borderline personality disorder far more than men. Men probably suffer, there are men that suffer from sociopathic behavior. Narcissistic behavior, from what I understand, is relatively equal between men and women. Borderline personality disorder, it tends to be more female oriented. At least this is what I did a brief search on. So I am by no means an expert in this area. This is a tough one. If you are, you know what? My podcast booking agent, Scout Agency, if you Google Scout Agency, she wrote a book called the Emotional Entrepreneur. The Emotional Entrepreneur. She openly admits she has borderline personality disorder, and she's married, very happily married. Now, she's very aware of her disorder and how it shows up. The sad reality is very few people are even aware they have borderline personality disorder. But the good news is you're aware of it. Okay, great. That's awesome that you're aware of it. And if you're aware of how it manifests with any man you're with, you can actually, so I wouldn't probably, well, here's the tricky part. Okay, one of the fundamentals of emotional maturity is that you're transparent. You're transparent with one another. So I would prefer someone tell me before we have sex or before we engage in a relationship with one another that they had BPD. I would prefer that for myself. If I like then I would be prepared in advance to all the possible questions they might have, or I would be prepared to address how it manifests itself, how you're aware of it, and how you both can work together to navigate this. That's the most important piece. Is I would be upfront very early on. I would describe how it manifests itself in relationship, and come up with a game plan of how to address it when something comes up. Now, from what I understand, borderline is 1 minute they love you and the next minute they hate you. I had a friend of mine who had a mother like that. Oh my God. I remember watching this growing up. His mother was a loving human being, and she would snap and turn. And boy, was the rat. I mean, have you ever heard the term hell hath no fury like a woman scorned? Well, hell hath not a woman like whose light bulb just switched. And that's what borderlines do. 1 minute they're this way, and the next minute they are some completely different person. It is the true Jekyll and Hyde. My instincts tell me they're probably more Gemini. Are you Gemini? I'm just kidding. The duality. Sorry, not to make a laughing moment out of it. But I'm here to say my invitation for you is to be upfront, express, as I said before, how this shows up, have a game plan. And you know what? The right guy, if he really likes you, he'll lean in. The wrong guy, he might move out. But I will say this, if you're aware, you're ahead of the game. Check out Scout Agency. Scout Agency, she wrote the book, I think it's called The Emotional Entrepreneur. That might give you some insight because she talks about it. Oh, and she has a podcast called Hey Sis. Hey Sis. So Scout Agency. All right. Great question, Heather. Thank you so much. All right. Let's see what else we have today. Again, if you have a question. Oh, Logan, thank you so much for the super sticker. I really appreciate it. Giving you a big, gigantic Jonathan Bear hug. If you want one of my Jonathan Bear hugs, purchase a super sticker, super chat right now, and I'm going to give you a big hug through the computer. Thank you so much. All right. Let's see. Question. Jesse has a question. Question. Gave my number to a guy who showed a lot of interest in me, walked with me, flirted, asked questions. And he texted a week later. When we talked, he mentioned how all women are jealous. And what is your question, Jesse? I don't see an actual question. So, oh, here we go. Okay, and her question is continue woo, boundary check. What was that all about? All women are jealous. Okay. You know what? We men like to throw out little trial balloons or trial boundary. We try to push boundaries to see how someone reacts. Women do this, men do this. So when a man says, you know, what was the thing he says? All women are jealous. So what he's looking for is how do you react to that question? Now, most people, like if a woman said to me, you know, all men are narcissists, well, then I'm going to probably try to describe why I'm not a narcissist. But when someone says that, that's kind of a turnoff to me. And I can suspect that's probably a turnoff to you as well. Someone who says that. Here's the bottom line. Okay, he's testing a boundary. He's throwing up a trial balloon. He's testing you. Are you guys getting along? Do you like each other's company? Are you communicating in a healthy way? Is it fun to be with him? Or is this just a bore? Because does it really matter, this one little thing he says? Okay. I say, folks, I say all kinds of shit. I put my foot in my mouth all day long. You have no idea how often I put my foot in my mouth in ways with my friends, in the dating process. As emotionally mature as some of you think I am, which I am completely, I am wounded like all of you. I've got my shit like all of you. I got my problems like all of you. And I many times put my foot in my mouth like many of you. I said all of you, I should say. Let me retract that, many of you. The bottom line is this. You have to look at somebody from the big picture, and not the small picture. So again, little things add up. I agree. But I wouldn't take that as an absolute red flag. It just simply means asking questions. By the way, before I wrap up this one, my mug says, swear a little, you'll feel better. That's why I curse a lot, so I can feel better. Great question on that one. I thank you so much, Jesse. I really appreciate it. All right, we have time for one or two more questions before we wrap up tonight. Boo Baker says, question. The guy I like has slipped into a major depression and is completely shut down. Should I move on or continue to emotionally support him? He stopped talking to me and he's off social media. Oh, great question. So if I understand correctly, this is a man you like and not a man you're dating. Okay, let's differentiate something, folks. Let's differentiate, because I know a lot of you guys say things that are so fucking confusing, it drives me nuts. So why I'm yelling right now, please forgive me, is that if you're actively dating someone, you're seeing each other 2 or 3 days a week, you're having sex together, you're doing stuff, and they're going through depression, part of the bargaining process of unconditional love is accepting someone where they're at. And certainly when someone is in a major funk of depression, look at, folks, look at, there's a picture of my son, Connor Aslay. He passed away 3 years ago. Do you think I was in a major funk and depression and melancholy for a while? Yeah, I was. Does that mean I wasn't capable of being in a relationship? Not necessarily. I certainly wasn't in the mood to date. There's a big difference. But certainly if I was in a relationship with a woman, I'd want her to be supportive of me during this period of time. But if you're just starting to date someone, and they're in the midst of depression, you're like on the first, second, or third date. I prefer to date people who have a healthy ground. They have a solid foundation of a ground underneath them versus an unhealthy or dysfunctional one. So where are you at in the dating process? Is he your boyfriend of 3 years, or is it a guy that you like at the gym and you'd like to see him? You know what? You got to make that choice for yourself. Okay. So I invite you to kind of define where it's at, and that might help you. All right. Again, if you want to purchase a super sticker, super chat, there's a little $sign at the bottom of the chat box. And that's directly in relationship to Leaf. So thank you so much. All right, we got time for one more question. Sherry says, Jonathan, great topic tonight. Thank you so much. Melanie says the super sticker is at the bottom. That's right. Let's see if we have any. Bump, bump, bump. Oh, urgent question, Gina. Urgent. I need Jonathan's cyber hug. So how do I purchase one of your super stickers? The little dive, but I'm going to give you one anyway. Thank you so much. I really appreciate it. All right. Nicole writes, question, you know someone likes you when they're worried about not connecting with you on Facebook. They give you their number. Is that a sign he likes you? Let me read that one more time. You know someone likes you when they're worried about not connecting with you on Facebook. They give you their number. Is that a sign he likes you? Well, it sounds like a sign. First off, folks, I'm a big believer of stalking people on social media. Let me repeat that. Stalking people on social media. What I mean to say is, I think listen, we're meeting total strangers these days when it comes to dating, mating, or relating. And this is why I'm a big proponent of doing a little intel, a little research about them. And that includes looking up their Instagram account, their Facebook account, maybe their Twitter account, just to get a sense of who they are. Oftentimes, listen, most folks' Facebook account is like their own National Enquirer. They vomit their life on social media. Men, not as much as women. Women tend to do it more so, although men do it as well. But at least it gives you some insight into the person when you can look up their social media account. So when someone's interested in your social media account, it's also trying to get insight into who you are, because we're strangers with one another. Folks, it's so hard to determine if we share the same values, if our lifestyles are blendable, and if there's emotional maturity. So a little bit of information helps feel safer with one another. I'm going to repeat that. A little bit of information helps people feel safer with one another. And so I'm a big proponent of stalking people. I say jokingly stalking, but check out their social media accounts so you can get a little insight into who they are. Okay. Hope that helps. Thank you for that question. And I want to thank Gina for the super sticker. Is that, where is it? There we go. Thank you for the super sticker. I really appreciate it. And there's your hug, everyone. If you purchase a super sticker before we end, you're going to get a big, gigantic Jonathon bear hug from me. And Connor Aslay Fun, thanks you so much. All right, we're going to take one more question. Oops, Melanie. Is age just a number? Does maturity override age? Is age just a number? No, age is not just a number, folks. Let's get fucking real. When someone is, when someone's 60 years old, the statistic, the average age of Americans, I think, is 79 years. So that means they have 19 years of life left. That's not an absolute, because, oh, wait, I want to show everyone a picture real quickly. Here's a picture of my 96-year-old dad. Oh, wait, I got to show you this one. This was just taken the other day. 96-year-old dad having a martini. Okay? 96. Fuck me. I mean, he might hit 100. There's a picture of my mom and dad right there. My mom passed away at 88. They were married just shy of 66 years before my mother passed away. But my point is, if someone's 60, statistically speaking, they only have 19 years of life. That's a lot different than someone there's 40 that has 40 or 39 years of life left in them. So age isn't just a number. Now, the other thing about age isn't just a number. The older you are, the more set in the ways you become. So let's not be naive and make age out to not be a big deal. Age is a big deal. From a longevity of life, and also so what you want to look for if you're going to date someone older is, do they take care of themselves? Do they eat healthy? Do they have a healthy regimen in their life? Because who wants to invest, start dating someone who doesn't take good care of themselves? I'm saying you can, but I'm saying human beings judge based on age, and part of the reason is they don't take good care of themselves, or they become set in their ways. Okay, this is why men oftentimes choose younger women, and this is why women are choosing younger men. This is why a lot of people in their 60s, they're crisscrossing each other, because the men are choosing younger women and the women are choosing younger men, and they're not dating in their own age bracket. Not that, and that's not an absolute, I'm saying that tongue in cheek. Age is not just a number, it is a fact of life, just like the rings to a tree. Okay, for every year we've been on this planet, we're 1 year closer to maybe us not being on this planet. And although there are no guarantees, I'm here to say what's most important, at least from my purview, is A, how rigid are you in your thinking? Because a lot of people, the older they are, they're set in their ways. And B, do you take physically good care of yourself? That's the way I look at age. But that's just my opinion. Let me know your thoughts on that. Post a comment. Some of you might not have agreed with me right there. And by the way, again, my father is the exception to the rule, and I hope he lives to be 100. Ava says, give your dad a great big hug. My father lives in Istanbul, Turkey. That's where he grew up, and that's where he wanted his last years of life to be. So there's a good chance I might not see my father ever again. I was hoping COVID didn't happen, but nonetheless. Lillian says age does matter. Jesse says, thanks for the response, Kelly. I'm 46 and I'm going to stay until I'm 100. There you go. Nicole says, amen. Thank you. All right, folks, it's Friday night. I think it's time that I'm going to wrap up today. I'm getting together with my best mates. It's my best friend's birthday today. We share the same age. By the way, I'm perpetually 49 for the rest of my life. So is age just a number? Anyway, I want to thank you all for the super stickers, super chats. Thank you so much for the support to the Connor Aslay Scholarship Fund. I want to thank you so much. I hope you found value in this live stream today. And if you're listening to the recording, I want to express appreciation. Please share this with your friends. Please tell people about my YouTube channel. Check out the links below to the books I recommend, my podcast, schedule coaching with me, or you can check out, if you can't afford coaching, check out the link to my membership group called Midlife Love Mastery. All right, we're going to wrap up this video as I always do. First off, giving myself a big, gigantic Jonathon bear hug of self-love. I'm going to reach into the camera and give you a hug of love if that's okay. I'm going to ask you to turn to someone, a pet, a teddy bear, a pillow, and give it or them a hug of love, because hugs are a great source of love. And let's face it, we could all use more love in our lives. I want to thank Sherry and Kit Kat and Melanie and KK and Vivian and Nicole and all you wonderful folks that ask questions from the bottom of my heart. Thank you so much. Wishing you a fab weekend. Bye-bye now.